Tap in, YouTube, tap in. About to go into depth about the situation surrounding Nolan Lyles and my honest opinion of what I think happened to him. And I'm gonna go into depth. I'm gonna go into a lot of details of what I believe really happened on that fateful day when they found his dead body in the ocean. I'm going to speak on a lot of things. I'm going to talk about the whole situation with the preliminary independent autopsy results, along with just other YouTubers just making up like stories or bogus claims that are not verified or not proven by science, because there's a lot of misinformation that are being put online that I need to address and I need to bring forth to life. And I want to first say my condolences goes out to Nolan Wells, and my sympathy and my heart goes out to his family, and I hope God gives them the strength to endure this tragic loss that they have to deal with for this time. It's not easy to lose a son. It's not easy to lose a close family member, and I hope God gives them the strength to pull through, and that they'll be able to persevere through this difficult moment that they're dealing with right now. So I want to first start off by saying that there were two autopsies that was done. The first was a preliminary independent autopsy that was done by the state of Mississippi. And in this autopsy, it basically states, weeks after an 18-year-old body was found floating face down near an island off the Mississippi coast, an independent autopsy requested by his family has yielded no solid answers about what led to his death. An independent pathologist described Nolan Wells' manner of death as undetermined, pending further investigation. His preliminary autopsy report says the teen's body was found on July 6 along the shoreline of Horn Islands. Wells' death sparked nationwide attention and speculation that race may have played a role, given Mississippi's fraught racial history. If you guys are aware of Mississippi and the situation surrounding the past history of them, committing atrocious acts against black people, have you guys known about the situation with Emmett Till that happened in Mississippi, where two white individuals, first of all, if you guys are aware of the story, Emmett Till was accused of whistling at a white woman, and he was like, they also alleged that he touched her inappropriately or whatever the case is. And in that situation, when he was accused of this, two white men basically abducted Emmett Till from his house, and they basically beat him to death. And it was so bad, like his face was unrecognizable, but his mom wanted an open casket. And all the jury basically found those two white assailants not guilty for committing the crime, even though they admitted on camera that they did it, and they took pride in it. But God sees everything, and God is the righteous judge. And those two individuals that were guilty of murdering Emmett Till lived a miserable life, and they died. They suffered terrible deaths because they died of, I think one died of cancer in the eye, and the other one was banished, and they were unable to find a job. And I think he also died from some type of terminal illness. So God is a just God, and he's gonna make sure righteousness his people gets righteousness. Thank you, Eric, thank you for the comment. Mr. Peanut YT, Jesus loves me. Thank you, appreciate it, man. Jesus loves you too. Thank you for the message, Mr. Peanut. I really do appreciate that. Jesus does love me, and you should check out my previous videos, my live stream about having experienced God for myself and having these revelations and these supernatural experiences with God. It really has drawn me closer, and I have a deeper relationship with God. But right now, I'm gonna focus on this subject. But I want to bring God. I'm gonna bring this stuff back to God at the end of the day, because God sees everything, and what's in the dark must come to light, and I believe the truth is gonna come forth eventually. So I'm going back to the story with surrounding Nolan Wells, and don't, like, you see this picture right here that I'm showing you right now. It says organ missing from the body. Now this what happened when the preliminary independent autopsy was conducted. So in the first preliminary autopsy, they have to remove the organs. That's like a standard procedure they have to do when they're conducting an autopsy. So I don't want you to be misinformed and you think, oh, his organs were missing when they conducted an autopsy, so there was some suspicious activity. Don't think there was some suspicious activity. This is standard procedure they have to do. When a preliminary independent autopsy is conducted, they have to remove the organs in order to get more conclusive findings of what's going on, or to determine more, or have a better understanding of what was the cause of death. So in this statement, as I was reading, it says that independent pathologists described Nolan Wells' manner of death as undetermined pending further investigation. And this says the death sparked nationwide attention and speculation that race may have played a role. And photos from the trip showed that the black teen, surrounded by white friends, thought at least one other black friend was also on the trip, but I don't believe the other black friend was with him. He may have been with the group, but he branched off, because I think Nolan Wells was with his two other white friends. I might be wrong, but I'm thinking that's what the case is. The independent autopsy, which was privately funded, is separate from the official autopsy performed by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner Office on July 7th. Results from the state's autopsy investigation have not been released pending the outcome of standard toxicology results. So they did an independent autopsy. That was a preliminary test to determine if there's any cause, or just the beginning stages of the investigation. And obviously, in a preliminary autopsy, there's not going to be more information. You're not going to find out as much information until more more research is done, and more results come. So it's going to take some time for the test to come back and to show more in-depth information about toxicology report and stuff of that nature. So what did the independent autopsy reveal? So basically, forensic pathologist by the name of Dr. Roger A. Mitchell Jr., who performed the independent autopsy, identified several limitations that create barriers to establishing a definitive cause and manner of death for Nolan Wells. So there's certain barriers that is in the way of this pathologist to really get a conclusive a determination on what was the cause of his death, or what was the manner of his death. The most significant of the limitations was the inability to directly observe the airway and lungs for water, and directly observe the stomach for gastric contents. And in addition, the toxicology results have not been received yet at the time of the report, so they're still waiting for the toxicology report to come through, and they're still conducting an ongoing investigation to determine if there was any water that was found in his lungs or airways. So it's still an ongoing investigation, and it's still yet to be determined. So they said that Mitchell also did not have access to all of his remains after the state autopsy, including portion of the interiors of Wells' neck. So this is the part that really kind of, I'd say, alarmed me a little bit, was the fact that his neck was not found during the independent autopsy. So in order for the second autopsy to be done conclusively, to get more information, the neck has to be a part of it. Like the arm, you have to be able to have all the parts that you need in order to determine indefinitely, or definitively, what was the cause of his or like kind of better understand what was the cause of his death. But his neck was missing from that, and that he also noted that common forensic pathology practice. So it's a common thing they do, but hopefully, once the independent or once the preliminary autopsy is conducted thoroughly, um, hopefully they will find out, okay, from them observing the neck, what could have been the cause of, maybe they found signs of strangulation or some other thing like water in the airway. Hopefully they could determine that, because I believe that's very important. And pathologist said he didn't find any apparent laceration, fractures, or deep tissue injuries on his body, but the level of decomposition can obscure the presence or absence of bruising on the skin surface, especially during a second autopsy observation. He didn't find red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the autopsy report stated, but it's not clear what the cause of the discoloration was, or what led up to that in the first place. I honestly believe, this is just my opinion, that Nolan Wells was involved in a physical altercation, and during this physical altercation with his so-called friends, he was hit in the back of the head with like a foreign object. So I believe blunt force trauma to the back of the head was like the cause of his death, or one of the main factors that led to him dying. And like this discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head is very telling to me, because that's a sign that there's some type of struggle, or something happened, some physical altercation might have ensued that led to him having this, particular injury. And I think once more evidence come forth, they're gonna determine. I think possibly that he may have been strangled, and he may have or maybe he was in a struggle with somebody else, and they was trying to strangle him, but they had the final devastating blow was to the back of the head. So I really believe, honestly, that he was murdered. I can't say that word on YouTube, unfortunately, but I believe he was killed. Oh, I can't even say that word either. But I honestly believe some foul play may have happened that led to his passing. There's questions that are lingering around him. Why did he end up in the water? So, Nolan Wells and his so-called friends, because I don't really call them friends, because what kind of friend would have left their friend behind and then took his phone with them, and then next thing you know, they deleted all their social media platform, and they basically went completely cold. They didn't communicate with the public. They're not saying anything, and they all lawyered up. That's a huge red flag. You said, who's that? This is Nolan Wells. So the guy on the left is Nolan Wells, and there's a huge investigation going on about what was the cause of his death. If you heard about it, I don't know if you heard about him. He's a teenager. I think he was like 18 years old, and he's very young. So they're trying to determine what's the cause of death. Suspicion. There's a lot of suspicious things that took place during this event when he went on a boat trip with his so-called white friends. They went to like some type of they took a boat trip to Horn Highlands, that's somewhere in Mississippi, and there's a lot of questions surrounding that because they, to me, I'm asking these questions to myself. I'm saying to myself, how is it that they end up having his phone, and then he was left behind? They claim that he decided that he didn't want to go back with them. But what kind of friend want to be left behind on a boat when you're traveling in pairs with other people? And they claim there are other people surrounding the islands. If there's other people that were surrounding the islands, then someone must have seen something. And I believe somebody's gonna come forth and spill the beans of what really took place. I believe there was a physical altercation that took place between Nolan Wells and his so-called friends, and maybe Nolan Wells was trying to get his phone back, but they were trying to take it hostage. It may be a fight over a female, because a lot of times people don't understand. A lot of times guys be fighting over women, man. It could stem from jealousy. No one was maybe had the girls. He was the one that was the one. He probably, this is just my own inference, my own interpretation of what may have happened. I think Nolan Wells was the guy that was the type that attracted all the girls, and he was into white girls, right? And sometimes the white guys can get a little bit insecure, so maybe his friends were like jealous of him, that he was the one that always attracted the white girls. So maybe they, try to like bully him into like feeling less of like a man, and saying, "Man, you're pussy" or something like that. And maybe they antagonize him, and then that led to some type of physical altercation where no one else had to defend himself. And maybe they try to take his phone during that time, and no one was tussling with one of these so-called white friends of his, and then he was probably getting the upper hand over that one friend, and then the other ones saw that he was getting the upper hand, and they all jumped in, and one of them, had landed that devastating hit to the back of his head. That's where they had the discoloration thing coming from. Official SGT4YT says, "I'm guessing that his friends probably took his phone, put it by the edge of the boat, then they pushed him and he drowned." I believe that's a possibility too. I do that can happen. That can definitely happen. But I do believe someone, either like they try to take his phone, and he wanted, because what kind of person is gonna leave without their phone? Let's be logical here. If you go into some place like an island, right, and you're hanging out with your friends, and you're like, oh, even if you decide that you wanna stay at the island and you don't want to go back with your friends, which is odd in itself, that doesn't even add up. Because like, if I'm going out somewhere with a bunch of friends, I'm not gonna want to be left behind. Nobody wants to be left behind, stranded, to fend for themselves. Like, the story doesn't even add up. Like, logically speaking, what kind of person is gonna want to be left behind and be like, oh, okay, I don't want to go back on the boat with them, even if you're so-called intoxicated, because they claim that all of them were under the influence, right? So even that's the case, if you was under the influence, or you was intoxicated, what kind of logical person is going to be like, oh, I want to be left behind on this island with a bunch of strangers and people I don't know, and you guys could just go about your business, and oh, by the way, you could take my phone too. Like, that doesn't add up. Like, it really does not make any logical sense, and that's why I'm really skeptical about the narrative that the media's trying to push, to make it seem like, oh, this was like just an accidental death, like he drowned, or basically trying to absolve any blame from his so-called white friends, to make it seem like, oh, they were not responsible, or they didn't play a role in him dying. So let me continue with this article. It says, when the body was found in the water, there was suspicion of drowning as an important thing to confirm how the person entered the water, the pathologist wrote in his report. Let me quote it word for word what this pathologist said. He said, suspicion of drowning, it is important to confirm how that person entered the water. So, and he continues saying, this information is especially important, right? He continued to say, this information is especially important for those deaths of persons who can swim, as is the case with Nolan Wells. So there's very suspicious things that raise alarm bells in my head, because I'm saying to myself, if he was left on the island by himself, what kind of friends is gonna leave a friend behind and not trying to retrieve him? And why would this person, like Nolan Wells, decide to be left behind? Because they claim, oh, he didn't want to go back with them on the boat. I don't see that as possible, or that's very unlikely, because who want to be left on an island by themselves, bro? Like, that don't even make sense. Do you guys agree with me that it's kind of suspicious? that Nolan Wells would decide, oh, he want to be left on the island by himself. Can you guys agree that's kind of suspicious? Because if I'm going into a place with a group of guys, or like if I'm hanging out with a group of people that we're on a trip and we go hiking or whatever the case is, whatever place you may be, what kind of person in their right mind is going to be like, oh, you guys can leave me behind. I got this all figured out, man. I'll figure out how to get back on my own on a boat at that, right? Can you guys, like, doesn't that make any sense? Does that make any sense to you guys? So the currents near Horns Islands can notoriously be rough. The Jackson County coroner told CNN his office has received numerous drowning victims from Mississippi barrier islands over the years. So the fact that the current is, that's another thing that that also raised suspicious things in my mind. It's like, if the currents is strong enough and people have drowned in the past, venturing off on their own on this island, why would Nolan Wells feel comfortably being left behind by himself on this island, knowing that the currents are very rough in certain parts of the island, and now you have nowhere to go. You're pretty much stranded, and you're left by yourself. Like, so please tell me, somebody please explain to me, why would he decide to be stuck there? Like, this is the narrative that his so-called friends is trying to paint. They're coming out with these false narrative, and this is what I honestly believe. They come out with these false narratives trying to paint Nolan Wells as someone who was they trying to absolve, like, basically not take accountability for anything, saying that we're not responsible for him dying, like it was just freak. Basically, he was like a freak accident type of thing. But the fact that they came back, they came back on the land with his cell phone, and then there were alleged messages that were deleted, kind of like rage a lot. There's so many questions I have that I'm really suspicious about, that my spider senses are going off, right? So I don't believe this is just some freak accident. I don't believe this was like accidental drowning or something like that. I do believe there's nefarious activity that took place on that island, and I believe eventually the truth is going to come forth. So this says here, there were no shelters, restroom, or communication on Horn Islands. Some people venture off into the water, but even if Wells did drown, other questions still is lingering. The pathologist said he could not tell whether he was conscious or unconscious, forced or unforced, before entering the water, which is very, very alarming. Very, very alarming. So, an agonizing wait for information. So, the Jackson County Sheriff's Department has interviewed dozens of witnesses and is working with the FBI to investigate the case. Jackson County District Attorney told the outlets the case is a priority and she will forward the results to the law enforcement investigation to a grand jury to determine whether any charges will be applied. Reverend Al Sharpton, entertainment mogul Tyler Perry, and former NFL star Terrell Owens have offered a combined amount of $125,000 in reward for any information leading to an arrest and conviction in the case of this crime that have occurred. An emotional news conference Wednesday, the Wells father said that his teen son should be a football practice, not buried in the ground, which is unfortunate, man. And he said, every day is a challenge. We're going to miss our son. And like my wife said, we just want honesty. We want to know what happened to our son. So they just want transparency in this whole situation. They just want some transparency, man. And I want transparency. I want the truth. And I believe, there's a lot of lies that have been put out there and a lot of false narrative that his so-called friends trying to paint. That, there's three different sides to the story. Is your story, his story, and the truth. So just because you hear somebody else's version of the story doesn't make it the truth. That's their version, and they're trying to influence the public to think one particular way. But I'm a person that think for myself, and I don't go based on what someone else say, or what, even when it's the majority predominant society, even if they may have said this is the case, I always question it, because I believe it's important to have critical thinking skills and to think logically about a lot of cases. Because you could just look at it and just think, just use common sense and say to yourself, if I was in this situation, would I be comfortable with doing this? And if you can say, no, I won't be comfortable with doing this, then you know something is off, right? And like, yeah, James Andrew Baker said, we all want the truth and justice for Nolan. I agree with you 100%. We all want the truth, man. And I want justice for Nolan. And, you know, like, there's just so many discrepancies with the stories with his friends. And like, this guy, I forgot his name. He's making it sound like, oh, he tried his best to get Nolan Wells back on the boat, and he just didn't want to go back in the boat. But, you know, he left his phone on the boat, and all this stuff is just not making any sense. Because thinking of just using common sense, what kind of person in their right mind is gonna want to be left behind on an island? And this island is not really that big, you know what I mean? Like, you can't really wander off for too long, and you're not with another friend, or not with somebody who you trust that you can rely on to help bring you back to the land. So you're basically left stranded. And if you don't have your phone, how can you communicate with anybody in case you need some help, in case of an emergency? So all this stuff is just not adding up, man. And even if you cannot communicate, let's say the phone don't have any signal, and you can't call someone, you can't reach emergency services, you could use your phone, like, you could use the flashlight, you could use your phone to help you navigate, or trying to alert somebody to come rescue you on the island. So that in itself made me believe there's some, you know, shady thing that took place. And I don't believe that Nolan Wells was just like he decided to just be there by himself, like, oh, I didn't want to go back, you know what I mean? I don't believe that one bit. But I want to address this YouTuber by the name of Ringo TV. And I gotta address this guy because he's spreading misinformation, and he's using terms that are not coherent, are not the right term to use in the situation when it comes on to the autopsy. Because just to break it down to you, there was a preliminary independent autopsy that was done on Nolan Wells. So the state itself of Mississippi conducted their own separate autopsy on Nolan Wells, and they haven't like fully determined what was the cause of his death. And the second like an independent autopsy was done. This independent autopsy determined that there is still more research that needs to be done, because the organs, when they conducted the autopsy on the second independent autopsy, the organs were missing from the body. I mean, no, let me take that back. The first autopsy that was done, they removed these organs. That's standard procedures that they do when it comes on to conducting an autopsy. But the second independent autopsy that was done, the organs were put back in his body, but his throat was missing. His throat was missing on the second independent autopsy. So during that second independent autopsy, the medical examiner wasn't able to determine conclusively what was the cause of his death, because the throat was missing. So they're waiting for the throat to be available so they can examine it in its entirety. And so this YouTuber is literally using wrong terminology to determine the process in how medical examiners conducts their own autopsy. So let me play this video and hear me out for a second, okay? Tap in. By the way, make sure to like the video and subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we want justice for Nolan Wells, okay? So let's listen to this guy. Can you hear the volume?
Testing 1 2 3.
We're gonna skip through this stuff. because he used this term that was very disturbing to me, and like really not disturbing per se, but it was irritating to me because he was using the wrong terminology to describe how the medical examiner conduct their own personal investigation.
Major problem.
Listen to this.
We waited for these autopsy results, and when it says, what was the cause of the death? Oh, pending investigation. Come on, man. They're playing games with us, guys. They're playing games.
We'll explain that as we...
Isn't that ignorant? Pending investigation means they still have to determine what was more information regarding that would they're still conducting an investigation. These type of investigation takes time and it's a process that it's not gonna just be instant. You said stop lying. What am I lying about, homie Joe? What am I lying about? The first time I ever got you didn't finish your sentence, Jack Quill Hurt. But what am I lying about? Please explain to me what am I lying about? Because at this point I've just stated everything that I have read, and I was being like very direct and transparent with what I'm saying. But this guy is very ignorant. This Ringo TV guy is very ignorant, because in any type of autopsy, it takes time for you to get more information about what was the determining factor of this person's death, or a said individual death. It's not gonna be something that you determine right away, and even if weeks pass on, sometimes it takes even longer for you to gather more information, because you may have to conduct a toxicology report, and there's a lot more work that goes behind the scenes to determine this. So for him to just say this type of blanket statement is just crazy to me. But let's continue.
We go through the report this morning. The manner of death undetermined, pending investigation. Statement of examination. This forensic pathologist was retained to perform a second autopsy examination on the body of Nolan Xavier Wells. Name of decedent, Nolan Xavier Wells. Age, 18 years old. Race, black. Gender, male. Date of death, unknown.
Do you see how they lied? They said black. They did not say...
And this guy is a pure hypocrite. You know what? I call this guy in his hypocrisy. I watched his older videos, and he stated this before, that the father determined the race of the child, not the mother, because he's the one that plants the seed. So if the father is black, the mother is black. He claims that Bob Marley is not black because his father was white, and now he's claiming that Nolan Wells is not black because his mom is Filipino. So which one is it? This dude is it's just a pure hypocrite, and he just confused as hell, man.
He's Filipino.
His father is black though. So I thought you said the seed of the father determined the race of the child because he plants the seed, but all of a sudden he's not black no more? Like, come on, man. This dude is a complete clown, man.
Do you see that, guys?
Clown.
With all the work that I've done,
clown.
You would think that this attorney would get it
right. This
right.
guy's a clown, man.
But no.
This dude is a clown.
They're still lying to us.
You're lying to
They're still lying, guys.
They're not lying. You're lying. You're full of shit, bro.
Second autopsy date was performed on July 10th, 2026. Preliminary findings.
What did they find?
And this is significant.
Okay, let's get it.
Focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head.
That's a huge finding right there. The red discoloration in the back of the head. Come on, man. There's something took place, man. Some type of physical altercation happened between Nolan Wells and his so-called friends, and the truth is slowly coming forth. It's still more that's gonna come forth as the investigation continues, but I believe somebody's gonna come and spill the beans of what really took place on that island. And I believe there was some type of fight took place, and Nolan Wells, they gang, in my honest opinion, because he was hanging out with a group of so-called friends, white guys, with our so-called friends. I can't call them friends because a real friend is not going to leave their comrade behind. And on top of that, they're not going to basically delete all their social media and just completely just just go cold turkey and not talk about anything and lawyer up. And the fact that they lawyered up right away scream of like very suspicious activity right there, right? So no, I'm not falling for the I'm not going for that, man. Nah, there's a lot of things that don't add up.
The Occipita region, he said the etiology is unknown at this time.
Unknown. So we waste everybody's money doing an investigation, but it's unknown. Because I already told you guys that Nolan, in my opinion, died by a freak accident. So if there's anything in the back of the head or whatever the case is, it could be him getting hit by a boat, falling and hitting his head. Something happened, right?
See, this guy is trying to not hold these so-called friends of his accountable, because he's saying, oh, he could have hit the back of his head he could have got hit by a boat, or he may have hit something something in the water. Like, let's think about this realistically. What kind of person in their right mind is gonna want to be left behind by their friend on a boat, and then the friend just leave them by themselves? Who in their right mind is gonna want to be left behind on an island surrounded by water, and they have nowhere to go? On top of that, they're without their phone. Even if they can't, call anyone or have any signal, they can use their phone to like flashlight. They could at least. Who would be comfortable with leaving their phone on the boat in the first place? So really, a lot of stuff is just not adding up, bro. A lot of stuff is not adding up. I'm a very I have the gift of discernment, and I think a lot of stuff just doesn't make any logical sense, right? It's just not adding up, man. Seriously, it's just not adding up. Anyways, let's continue with the video.
But to go through this whole investigation, guys, and they're still playing games. They didn't even get to the point of, okay, what was the cause of the death? They still didn't tell you that straightforward.
Because it's still...
And the first autopsy that was done, we still don't got that. So what kind of game they playing?
This dude is he's really ignorant. I can't use the other word because YouTube might put a strike on my channel, but he really doesn't understand how autopsy work, man. He don't understand that they have to conduct a thorough investigation to determine what's the cause of his death or what could have led up to him dying. Like, it's not they hiding anything or they playing any game, is that they still conducting their investigation. That's like any type of work you do. It's undetermined. That means they still have to conduct more research. They have to still do more analysis to figure out if there's other underlying cause that could have been the real reason why he died. So it's not like, oh, they just try to hide something from the public, or, bro, like, it's just, I work in the medical field. I understand when it comes on to doing analytical research or analyzing anything like a specimen or a sample, or trying to determine the cause of something, it takes time to analyze the sample. It's not gonna be something where you figure out in a short period of time. The results don't sometimes come till like the next day or a couple of days, but it's a process. It takes a time for you to get the sample. First of all, you got to make sure you gather all the information you need in order to conduct the research you need, in order to conduct the proper investigation for whatever you're testing it for. So basically, let me use an example. If I'm testing a sample for a possible contamination, I gotta have all the proper tools that is necessary in order to conduct that particular investigation, research. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna hide something from the public. I can't get the results unless I get all the proper, tools that I need in order to conduct my research. So in this situation, the person, the medical examiner that's conducting the autopsy, they gotta gather all the necessary tools they need in order to get a more concrete evidence, or something that could give them something that's more proven, or more, you know, that is more concrete, basically, if you get what I'm saying. So that really is not, like, what he's saying doesn't really make sense.
He said the body was received after the initial autopsy. He said the body had marked decompensation.
I would say one thing though. I wish there was a medical examiner or a doctor who's an expert in this field that was on stage that this person should have been able to read over the autopsy, and not Ben Crump. This is not his level of expertise. He's an attorney, and he needs to stay in his lane. This should have never been something he should have read or go over, because he can't even pronounce certain words. He don't understand the terminology. He don't understand the language, the verbiage, and he can break things down in a way that can help the audience to understand what the significance of these findings are. Because when I work in the medical field before, and I've done lab analysis and stuff like that, this type of work requires a lot of analytical skills, but it also requires a lot of understanding about certain terminologies and certain phrases, understanding how to break things down in a way that makes sense. Because there's a lot of research that goes that happens behind the scenes. So it's not like, oh, you can just read a term and understand it. Like, it's bigger than that. You gotta be very thorough with everything you do. So anyways, yeah, this is the only thing I would say I could agree with this guy, is that Ben Crump should have never been able to read over this thing. Like, it should have been a medical examiner or someone who's an expertise in this field, because they'll be able to understand how to better convey this message over to the public, and they understand the terminology a lot more, and they could explain the science of it in deeper details.
He said corona incision of the scalp.
Also, to what is that, Selma? You said it was said he was beaten. That's a lie. You're listening to YouTube gossip.
How you know it's a lie? This is still ongoing investigation, so there's nothing you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he wasn't beaten to death. I mean, at this point, we all speculating. I'm speculating, but I believe there is some great there's great suspicion, or great reason for me, not suspicion. There's great reason for me to believe that there was some physical altercation that transpired between Nolan Wells and his so-called friends. Because, like I was going back to the statement I was making before, what kind of person in their right mind is gonna want to be left behind on an island by their own without their phone? No one really want to go anywhere without their phone, man. So to me, that in itself is kind of like very an alarming thing. Because, like, why would I want to be left on an island by myself without my phone at that? So no, there's more to the story, man. There's more to the story. You best believe that. Let's continue with the video. Let's continue.
Right? We got to stop listening to gossip, guys.
It's not gossip.
There's no video there.
You don't have nothing on your own too, so you're gossiping just like everybody else, bro. We still, at this point, it's still ongoing investigation that's taking place, and no one knows definitively what was the cause of his death. But I can gather my own inferences based on some observable things that I have seen through this case that can make me make my own informed decision on what I think was the cause of his death, or what happened that led to his death.
There is no audio. There is no information nowhere. You understand? Not even Ben Crump and the family said that. So whoever and wherever you got that from is called gossip.
You're gossiping
from
too.
YouTube,
You're gossiping.
or whatever social media platform you
like
got that
everybody
mess from.
else.
Let's get back to the content.
You're gossiping like
Brain
everybody
removal,
else.
Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso And he talked about the organs being removed as is common,
Notice the people in the audience when he said the organs was removed. Everybody's screaming in shock. See, this is a problem with the black community. You guys gotta.
Now he's saying this is a problem with the black. See how ignorant this guy sounds? So he's generalized the black community as a whole, based on the reaction of a few people. And most of those people that reacted that way were women. You know how women are very emotional, right? So like, of course, women are gonna overreact, and they're gonna have a frenzy, because women are just women are just innately emotional, more emotional than men. So he's gonna base that behavior of these women on. He's gonna use that to say this is representation of the whole black community. It's like, it's so ignorant, bro. Like, this dude is so ignorant, man. Let's continue. But this is not the worst, man. I'm gonna address something that he says, because what he said, it really irritates me, because I'm a person that I work in the medical field, and terminology and using the right. I'm not perfect by any means, but I don't like people who spread misinformation about certain things, and it could really mislead the viewers, and it could lead them down the path of them not being informed about certain things. And if you're not aware and you're not intelligent to understand the words that you're using and certain terminology you're using, you're basically misleading people at this point. All right, let's continue.
Understand that when they do autopsies, the organs is always removed. So what are you so shocked about?
We know that, okay.
The person is dead.
Okay.
They're not feeling anything. That's common practice.
That's women. That's
right?
how women.
Let's get back to the content.
That's just women being women.
accompanied in the body.
Women are emotional. They're gonna react that way.
Cavity.
That don't represent the black
when you have
community.
an autopsy, the organs are removed from the body,
stupid,
and they are dissected and examined.
Right.
And then they are put back in a bag within inside the body. So when they're buried, their remains will all be with them.
Just in case somebody else had to examine the body again, sometimes that happens as well. So being that Nolan's body was already examined, right, and this was an independent autopsy, the first autopsy, they had first dibs at the body. So you never know what they did. Now remember, in the case of Ashley Janae, remember they had an autopsy that was done, and then the family claimed that they had an independent autopsy. And notice this, guys, even till today, Ashley Janae's parents still haven't given us the autopsy results. Notice that.
That's a personal
Till today,
decision.
we still didn't get the results.
They don't have to do that.
Let's get back to the content.
Come on, let's I want to get to the point where you said this
if
thing.
There's going to be a second autopsy, then the organs are put in the body cavity, so the second pathologist could be able to examine the organs as well.
Right.
Very significant.
I've speed this up a bit.
For Dr.
Let's speed up
Mitchell
this.
was
Let's
that
speed this up. Let's speed
the
this up.
interior.
Can you hear his volume loud enough, guys? Is my voice louder than theirs? If anything, just let me know so I can raise up
We
his
gotta
volume.
speed this
Because
up
I
a
have it
little
at the
bit.
highest peak. I would have to use the software to enhance it to get
this dude
even
is very
louder,
long-winded.
so it can reach my
He
level
just
of my voice.
he just
Let's go.
talk, and
Inner neck
a lot of stuff he's saying don't make any
absent,
sense.
not received
Very
with the body.
long-winded, man.
And we'll explain that in just a minute. And then it talks about the additional procedures performed during the second autopsy, and we'll go into paragraphs on that there because he explains it better in his narrative.
Is that better?
Where's the first
I put the volume up on his end.
of the discussion? Not the diagram yet. Diagram over there.
Are you guys following me? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, man. This is a video that
On
really...
various other YouTube channels, the audio is on the left side of headphones or left side of the speaker.
Gotta talk about
on my
this.
platform, I have it
Very
set so it's
important.
pretty much equal in balance in stereo.
Come on, let's go.
Make sure you guys hit the like button at the same time.
Let's go,
He
let's go.
talks in the preliminary discussion, opinion. This forensic pathology
Hold on, let me get this ad out the way. Let that ad go by. Remember, I'm streaming from another platform. Let's go.
create barriers to establishing a definitive cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells. And that's important. He talks about the fact that we didn't get to see the body when it was first recovered, like the medical examiner working for Mississippi would have seen it. He talked about the second autopsy performed on Nolan Wells revealed marked decompensation or changes. Marked decompensation can...
I think that they should have had the actual person that performed the autopsy. I think that person should have been there to present this.
This is the only thing I agree with him on this situation. Like, it should have been a medical examiner or a doctor, someone who is an expert in this field that would have been able to better explain the terminology and break down the science of what these terms mean, because Ben Crump is not really well versed in this type of field. This is not his level of expertise. You know, he's an attorney. He's not a doctor. So this was poorly. I do agree. This was not organized. This was poorly organized, man. There should have been someone better fit to explain these terms, man. And he's struggling with just to pronounce these words, man, because he doesn't.
I find it rather
that's not his
suspicious
expertise.
That we're not, I guess, getting a presentation that is a little more professional. I don't think that the attorney should be presenting this info, because it come across as if though it was fabricated or put together. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that that's what it was, but I would be more inclined to listen to the one who performed the autopsy, because they'll be able to explain these things so that the listeners can understand the language behind it. Right? Let's go.
Obscure the presence and absence of bruising on the skin surface, especially during a second autopsy examination. What he's saying, because the body was so decomposed that you couldn't tell if there was bruises or abrasions on the body when he received it on the 10th of July.
Now, let's talk for a little bit, guys. He's talking about bruises. So in his mind, he's trying to imply that there's a possibility that Nolan was beaten up. Is that what he's trying to say? Because again, where's the first autopsy? Where's the first autopsy, guys? You don't find it strange that the first autopsy that they said was performed, right? Where's that autopsy? Why are we getting the second autopsy and not the first autopsy? This is why I'm doing this live, because we got to debunk all the lies that are being put out. Where is the first autopsy?
This dude is really ignorant, bro. The first autopsy is still ongoing, man. Does he not know how to read? Does he not understand simple layman terms where it means undetermined? What does undetermined mean? Still yet to be determined. That means an ongoing investigation is taking place. They still haven't determined what's the cause of his death. That's why. Like I just can't understand how people just don't understand basic English, bro. Just basic English. When I work in the medical field and I, had to, perform DNA analysis on certain specimens and stuff like that, I realize a lot of times when it comes down to just analyzing certain specimens and drawing up a conclusion, a lot of times it's important not to jump to conclusion. It's not like you could look at a sample and you could say, oh, this sample don't have a lot of it doesn't have a lot of material in it, or it's very low on concentration, so maybe I won't get a conclusive result. But you don't know that until you conduct the analysis. So you can't just make assumption based on what you see. You got to conduct your analysis, and you got to go through the whole process until you get the results until you gather all the information you need in order to get the results at the end. But you can't just look at something and assume, okay, it is this because of that. Like coagulation is a thing that happened in some of the like when I was doing DNA analysis, because I work as a medical technologist, right, where I conducted DNA extractions on blood samples, saliva, certain things like that. I realized certain samples, it will be hard for you to get the results, and you have to do multiple extractions to get the results. But sometimes you could look at a sample and you could say, oh, coagulation is forming, so there's a chance that I may not even get a result. But you can't just assume that and say, okay, based on what I see, It probably makes no sense for me to do an extraction on the sample. You got to still go through the process of doing the extraction, and sometimes even doing 2 extractions is enough. But a sample could look perfectly fine. You could be like, oh, this sample looked like it would be easy for me to conduct my DNA extraction on. And then when it comes time for you to perform the DNA analysis on the sample, you end up having to do multiple extractions on it because the sample itself is like not good. So you can't just make assumptions based on what you see. You got to go through the process and conduct your investigation in order to find the results that you're looking for. So that's pretty much what the case was. And you said Crump can't read the RPT. Yeah, I mean Crump is really struggling with the terms. He's really struggling with not only pronunciating the terms, but also explaining there's certain words and certain phrases that you have to be like expert and have some knowledge in to be able to explain. And I could tell that this is just not his level of expertise, man. Just like I can't go into his field and claim that I'm an expert in being an attorney, right? Some people just need to stay in their own lane. In general, like, bro, your lane is being an attorney. Your lane is fighting the case and trying to get justice for the family. But there should have been a medical examiner that was there to explain these terminologies and read through this thing, because I could tell he was struggling to even read it, man. But that's the only thing I agree with this viewer. But there's something he said to me that really ticked me off, and I want to address it. So continue to watch this video because I'm gonna address it in a short period of time.
That is what we need to see. We need to hear that first because they had the body first, right? So we should hear that one first and then balance it out to see what this autopsy is. We shouldn't be listening to the second autopsy first. It should be the first autopsy. Then we can listen to the second and see, okay, it balanced out. It seemed like it's the same because it's not making sense.
Don't you understand the body have a shelf life too? This is another thing too. I don't understand people who don't really know what they're talking about. The body have a shelf life too. You can't leave the body there for too long because you're gonna lose evidence. Because that's why they say, you know, when a body is like in the beginning stage of rigor mortis, it's important to conduct an autopsy as soon as possible. Because the longer you wait to conduct an autopsy, is the more likely you're gonna lose evidence, because the body is gonna be so decomposed to the point where you're not gonna be able to recognize it, and you're not gonna be able to decipher the extent of the injury that this person had sustained during the time of their death. So at this point, like, this is why I'm very suspicious about even the situation surrounding Nolan Wells' death, because they said the body, the pathologist, let me use the right term, the pathologist that conducted the second autopsy, or the independent autopsy, right? Let's use the word independent because he did it separate from the state of Mississippi. The pathologist that conducted the independent autopsy claimed that the body was decomposed to the point where, like, you couldn't really definitively determine what the injury was. But, you know, to see the discoloration is a huge to me, it's a huge red flag, because even when the body was decomposed, for this independent autopsy report to be like able to identify this discrepancy in their finding, made me believe there's something seriously took place. And also, if he was so-called drowned, the body will be able to be preserved much longer, because the water is salt water and in the fridge, rather than being in the heat. So there's a lot of questions that I'm asking, that it doesn't seem like some of the things are adding up, if you get what I'm saying. But let's continue.
For these reasons, additional dissection procedures not performed during the first autopsy examination were performed to rule out potential blunt force injuries responsible for the death. These procedures included facial dissection, posterior head and neck dissection of the ribs, the pelvic dissection, of the subcutaneous and deep soft
Is
tissue.
this guy an attorney? Because
This is bad, yo. I can't even lie, dog. It was so bad to hear him struggle to even pronounce these words, man. Subcutaneous tissue, like, this is not his ball, man. This is not his, like, yo. He should have. This should have never been. He should have never been allowed to read through this thing on it. It should have been a medical examiner, a doctor, someone who's well versed in reading this verbiage, man, to be able to explain it in a way, because they'll be able to better understand how to break down these terms to the audience. But he's obviously struggling just to even like, he can't even pronounce certain terms, man, like, and he's having a hard time reading through this thing. He's a great attorney, but this is just, oh my god, man, this is not his cup of tea, man, for real, man.
he can't read. Like, seriously. Listen, guys, with all the money that family received, over $800,000.
It doesn't matter. That's none of your business. Yeah, it's out there. It's the public. It's for people to see. But at the end of the day, the family needs all the money they can get, because they gotta hire an attorney. They gotta hire private like someone who do independent autopsy. That takes money, right? And then they got, if this is in the process of being trial in court, you got to hire an attorney to represent you in court. That takes money. And then also the trauma and all the stuff, like, they deserve to be compensated for the damages they are, the emotional pain and suffering that they have gone through. So I don't even care about the money. Like, the family deserve it. So this guy's just pocket watching for no reason. Like, who cares about how much money they receive? If people willingly wanted them to donate to the family to support them through this difficult time, then I'm all for it, man. Jada Wright 7 said, "You are my favorite YouTuber. You're so amazing." I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, brother. I really, that really does make my day, man. I'm happy. That made me so happy to read that comment right now, brother. I appreciate it, man. I'm just a person like speaking the truth, and God give me the spirit of discernment. Sorry if I'm moving my camera too much. God has given me the spirit of discernment to see the truth for what it is, and my spirit is speaking to me, and God is telling me, well, I'm not gonna say God is telling me, but you know, sometimes when you in your spirit, you know, like, you know something's not right, that's when I'm like, okay, something is off. And my spirit of discernment is telling me something nefarious happened to this young man on that island, man. Because I was, God loves me so much. Thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate it, Jada Wright. God loves you too, brother. And I don't know if you ever checked out my previous video. I went into so much details about, like, all the revelations and all the profound experiences I've experienced from God. I'm gonna go back to making videos like that, but I'm just, you know, going to a different subject right now. But I do believe, you know, when you see God is amazing. I believe what God is doing right now is also showing how amazing He is, because the truth is gonna come forward. And you see, the darkness can't hide from the light. You know, light overtakes the darkness. So I'm just amazed. I'm just thank God that God has given me the ability to see things for what it is, and God has given me the gift of discernment. And oh, you like that video, Jada Wright? Oh man, I appreciate it, bro. I'm glad that you like that video, man. I really, you know, God is just giving it in my spirit to, like, share that testimony to as many people as possible. And my desire is to reach as many souls, because I want to see people, you know, repent of their sins and draw closer and come back to the Most High and draw closer to God. Because, you know, we're living in borrowed times, and there's no promise. Like, God is coming back very soon, and there's no promise that we'll live to see the next day. And that's why I make it my due diligence to preach the message to as many people as possible. And, like, it's something that inspires me, man. Like, and be on the lookout for future videos, because I'm gonna talk about all the supernatural encounters I've received from God. And I'm gonna go into so much more details about those experiences I've had, and you know, it's just amazing how God has been like using me, and how much He has shown me throughout these few months. It's crazy. I've never experienced this amount of dreams and visions, and encounters, supernatural encounters with God. I've had moments like that in the past, but I've never had it happen to the volume I'm having it right now. So it's just been an amazing ride, and I'm just thankful to the Almighty Creator. So yeah, speaking of that, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, I'm gonna be talking more about that in the future, in my future lives. But yeah, I want to go back to this live stream. Appreciate the love and support, Jada Wright. It really means a lot to me, and you made my life. You made me feel very happy, man. It's like I know my video is making an impact on others. So thank you for those kind words. It means a lot to me. All right, let's continue with this video.
Tyler Perry paid for the funeral. Colin Kaepernick paid for this and that. We should be listening to the one who performed the autopsy. I think that this is sloppy. I think that they rushed this thing, and they know that the public been asking for, where is the autopsy? You guys went through a funeral service. You did all of this stuff, making all this noise. So I feel like they rushed this, because where's the first autopsy? We should be getting the first autopsy. This guy he can't read. He shouldn't be doing this job. This is the job of the one that performed it, because they would be able to read properly and put this together. You could tell that they printed this paper up and put this thing on this sign here. He can't even see it, guys.
Get to the point, man.
He can't. He didn't even have a practice presentation. This is his first time actually reading this stuff to the public. This is a shame.
Do dissection of the back, the buttocks, the arms, and legs.
I'm getting to the good part right here. I'm getting to the good part.
This was very important because he wanted to be very thorough and very transparent, because transparency is the key to getting to the answers of why Nolan Wells is not with us. So he did that there and was very straightforward, very open, very open.
Up to now, we ain't get nothing. I'm trying to play the tapes, guys. At the same time, I got to give this thing play-by-play commentary. I didn't hear nothing yet that can show if Nolan Wells was unalive by somebody. I ain't get nothing yet.
He says, however, dissection of the back of the head during the layered posterior neck dissection revealed a 12 by 8 inch focal area of red discoloration.
Because I want to get to the part where he used the wrong terminology to describe the toxicology report.
See, this is a problem, guys.
I mean,
really think that
the autopsy.
His team is doing a horrible job right now, because with all the money that family raised,
we got to skip through
you should
this.
have the medical person who did and performed this autopsy. They should be paid to present this to the public, because they would be able to talk very clear, because they understand their job. This is the only thing I agree with him about. It's slowing the process down.
It shouldn't have been Crump directly through this autopsy, man.
It can come across as if though
it should have been a medical examiner, a doctor, someone who's
the medical guy
who has some level of expertise
to explain what this means. Because
to explain this thing. This is the only thing I agree with him about.
They take out the brain, they take out organs, they do all sorts of stuff. So if we didn't get the first autopsy, right, then you won't understand the second autopsy. That's like, Friday the 13th, you didn't watch part 1, but you're watching part 2. That don't make no sense. You gotta watch part 1 first. That way you'll understand part 2.
I should have timestamped when he said this.
He talked about how
he said the tampering. Man, I forgot what timestamp he said that when he said they were tampering with the body. The first man, I gotta find this time. I don't want to just say it. I want you to hear from his word. I want you to hear from his own mouth. He said that
again, we need a professional that can explain this in layman's terms for the public. Because remember, there was already an autopsy done. So the body was already tampered with.
Oh, here it is. Here it is.
Who performed the autopsy.
He said the body was already tampered with. Can somebody explain to me what is wrong with that term? All right, this is the meat and potatoes of what I'm talking about. Let's go back. Let's reverse. Let's go back to what he said. Can somebody explain to me what is wrong with the word tampered with? Listen to this. Listen to this.
There was already an autopsy done.
Okay.
So the body was already tampered with.
You said the body is already tampered with. Can somebody explain to me what's wrong with that terminology, tampered with? Because if I'm not mistaken, the job of the medical examiner is to thoroughly examine every aspect of the body to determine what was the cause of this person's death. They do not tamper with the body. Their job is to medically look at the body, do forensic procedure, and it's their obligation to thoroughly examine all findings, injuries, and evidence they can use to determine what's the cause of this person's death. They cannot legally or ethically tamper with the body. So the fact that he like, this is not and that's not the first time he used the word tamper. He used it several times throughout his video. So I want to address that, because that's very misleading to use the word tamper. Oh, the medical examiner is tampering with the body. That's very misleading to use that terminology in your live stream, because you're basically spreading misinformation. There is no way a medical examiner can tamper with the body. Their job is to analyze the body in depth, to remove the organs, to look at any signs of injuries, to look at any lacerations, to determine, okay, whatever other cause or whatever may be other factors that are in play that could have been the cause of this person's death, whether it's drowning, maybe they find water in the lungs. You know what I mean? Like, what's the manner of death and stuff of that nature. So there's no way they can tamper with the body. That's the incorrect term to use. Ethically and legally, that's something that they do not do. So this is why I don't like people who don't understand the don't understand the terminology themselves, and they claim they act as if they're expert in the field when they don't know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? And yeah, man, I don't understand this thing, man. There's a lot of misinformation that's been spread. But you said the race baiting clowns love this case. I'm gonna still hide your comment. I see your comment, Roscoe, but I'm not gonna entertain the buffoonery, because this is not a race baiting situation. This case is imperative, because there's a lot of questions that needs to be answered. And I'm a person that think things from a logical point of view. I'm not just looking at things from an emotional standpoint, because I'm saying realistically, look at this, just using common sense. What kind of friend is going to leave their friend behind and take their phone, and at the same time they delete all their... I didn't say you. Oh, okay. Oh, you said you seen 6 lives on this today? Okay, yeah, there's a lot of people talking about this situation. But what is... Okay, before I continue what I was saying, what is your opinion about this whole situation? Do you think there's a suspicious activity that transpired with Nolan Wells that was the determining factor that led to his death? Do you think there was nefarious activity that took place that led to this death? Or what do you think it is? Do you think... Because I'm not trying to use race, but I do believe there is a fact, race do play a role in certain situations, because to just deny that race don't play a role is, to me, I would say it's... I think it's kind of ignorant. You said, I think we need to wait till the investigation is done. I do agree with that. I do agree with you on that premise. We do need to wait until the autopsy is completed. But I always like to look at certain factors that could have explained. Not saying this is a certainty, but there is a fact. There could have been. There's a factor there's a chance that race could play a factor in this situation. Because you think about it, he's the only black person amongst the group of his white friends, right? So-called white friends. It could be a black friends or whatever. I find it suspicious that he was the only one that was left behind, and then they end up finding his dead body in the lake, or the ocean, whatever, so on the island. And then here's the thing that really don't add up to me. His so-called friend, all of a sudden, when completely they disappeared. They turn off their social media. They lawyered up, and they basically went cold turkey and didn't inform the family of their son's passing, and the father had to fight very hard to get a hold of their son of his son's phone. If they were real friends and they really had his best interest in mind, they would have did everything in their power to make sure that the family was informed of their son missing, and they would have let them know that they have his phone. They would have showed sympathy, and they wouldn't just lawyered up right away. The fact that they lawyered up right away made me really think something else happened on that island, man. Like something nefarious happened. That's why when I look at this like a puzzle, man. I start putting the pieces together, and then when I start putting the pieces together, I'm like, okay, something else happened. Because when I'm listening to their side of the story, and this officer Tatum guy that had an interview with one of his friends, I was like, you said it sounds suspicious, but everyone is pilling on the race card. Not everyone is using the race card. Not everyone is dependent on the race card, brother. Not everyone is saying, oh, because he's black and this and that. But we have to be honest here, and we live in a classist, racist, systemic society where people are judged based on their race, people are judged based on their class, people are judged based on their socioeconomic background. I mean, this is the type of society we live in, and it's unfortunate, but this is the truth. So I'm not gonna just sit here and just act like this is not a reality that I live in, and it's not something that has been going on for years. Like, to just claim that race doesn't play a role at all is just, to me, is just very inconsiderate. Because I'm not saying the race is a complete, story. But I do believe race do play some part in it, because there is some story about how, somebody in the friends group was racist towards black people. And I have this idea that, when people are in a group amongst their peers, and especially when they're around their own kind, they turn into tribal, human beings. And being that he was the only black person in the group, my honest opinion is that they saw him as like someone they could gang up on because he was by himself. And allegedly, I read it was a Facebook post said that. Wait, first of all, no one cannot be racist, bro. Black people cannot be racist. We could be prejudiced towards a certain group of people, but Nolan Wells can be racist because we don't create laws to marginalize a certain group of people. We have never created laws in this country to systemically marginalize or oppress a certain group of people. So fundamentally speaking, black people cannot be racist. Well, in that essence. Now, can there be, prejudice towards a certain group of people and say, I don't like this person because of this? Yes, I believe so. But to just say, what if Nolan is racist I understand I hear what you're saying, but I think it's being dismissive towards the case because he's a victim here. He's a victim. You said blacks are some of the most racist people you know? That's crazy for you to say, bro. Roscoe, you gotta be trolling, man. How can you say blacks are some of the most racist people you know? That's very ignorant, man. That's racist. That's ignorant, bro. Black people cannot be racist, bro. Can you answer my question? Have black people ever created laws to oppress or systematically marginalize a certain group of people in this country? Have we ever done that in the history of this society? Answer my question, please. Cause I'm letting you, I'm hearing you out, but you're not making any sense, brother. You said blacks hate other blacks who are darker than them. Nah, that's crazy, brother. I don't know where you get that from, but I don't hate blacks who are darker than me, brother. That's very ignorant, brother. You said most black people you have ever met are racist. Where you getting this? Where you getting this idea from, man? How can black people be racist? We don't create laws to oppress a certain group of people. Have we ever created law in the history of this country? Name me one case where black people have created law in the history of this country to oppress or marginalize a certain group of people. But I could count multiple times where white people have created laws to marginalize and systemically oppress a certain group of people. You ever heard of the Jim Crow era? So how can we as people be racist? We could be prejudiced, but we can't be racist, man. From the black people saying they hate white people, they tell me straight up. Hate is not the same thing as being racist, bro. That's prejudice. Like, do you understand the term racism and prejudice? Racism is a systemic thing. Racism is a systemic word. Prejudice is more like you form preconceived notion against a certain group of people. You judge them before you get to know them. Now, a black person can be prejudiced towards a different race or ethnic group. They could be prejudiced, but they can't be racist. Racist is a systemic group name, man. Not only people who make laws can be racist. Now you're being disrespectful, man. Don't be disrespectful in my chat, man. You're blocked, bro. Don't be disrespectful in my chat, man. Cause I give you the freedom to express yourself in my chat, and I give you the luxury to do that, but don't take advantage of it, okay? Don't be disrespectful in my chat, and no name calling. Don't call nobody stupid because you lack the critical thinking skills to think and analyze things from a certain standpoint. You said we got sold by our own people. That's another lie that the European society, predominantly society, is telling. Oh, because Africa sold their own slaves out to the Europeans, and that's why. Listen. Okay, you gotta be blocked too, brother. You're blocked. You're blocked. Don't come disrespect me and talk about we are low IQ. We're highly intelligent individual. You know, most of the technology and a lot of stuff you have were created by blacks. This country was founded and built by black people. Okay? Have some respect. And don't come with no disrespectful rhetoric in my chat, because you will be booted out of here. I don't entertain the nonsense, okay? I'm not going back and forth with no trolls in my chat. Come disrespecting me with the name calling. I'm a very well educated man. I graduated college. I have a degree. I'm an entrepreneur. Don't disrespect. Don't come disrespect, man. Don't come disrespect, okay? Have some respect and decency in the chat. You could voice your opinion without being disrespectful. Okay? You could voice your opinion without being disrespectful. Okay? There's a thing like I don't understand with certain groups of people. You could voice your opinion without being disrespectful. What's wrong without, like, you have to resort to name calling? That's when you know you lose the argument. When you have to resort to name calling and using ad hominem attacks against me, that lets me know that you lost the argument and you got no leg to stand on. Because now you're calling me names and you're trying to put me down. And listen, I'm a well-educated person, you know? I have a degree in biochemistry. I know what I'm talking about. I'm well-versed in what I'm talking about. So don't come with no disrespect. She said, I'll do experiment. I'll hang with white people and see what happens. What do you mean by that, Gary? What kind of experiment do you mean? Explain to me what you mean by I will hang with white people and see what happens. Because I'm not making this a race issue. I never said, I never brought up race, not once in my live stream. I never want somebody in the chat brought it up, and I have to address it, and I have to say it's very ignorant to not acknowledge that race may have played a role in this in this situation. To just deny that race may have played a role in the reason why Nolan Wells died is just asinine. Because I say that could be a part of it. I'm not saying that is the complete story, but to just, like, I'm very open-minded. You said one black man with a bunch of white people, simple experiment. Listen, I've had white friends before. I'm not saying white people are innately evil or there's someone that can be trusted, but I do believe that when it comes on to certain situations involving you going to a place that is outside your scope of control, you need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to be aware of the friends you keep, of the company you keep. It could be any race. Like, if you're the odd one out, let me just be honest, right? People behave like they have a herd mentality. There's a word, I forgot the name of it or what term to use, but people become very primitive when they see when you're like an outsider and you're in a group of people that is more alike than different, you're gonna be marginalized. This is innate. This is a human nature. It's human nature to target the one person that is the odd one out the group. Now, I'm not saying this is what is definitively the case with Nolan Wells, but if you want to hear my honest opinion, I think a physical altercation ensued between Nolan Wells and one of his so-called white friend, and then the other so-called white friends that was a part of the group, they're like, well, we can't allow this black, because here's the thing, Nolan Wells, he was an athlete, he was a part of the football team, and he was into white girls, and I've seen this happen before where white guys can get a little bit insecure when they see a black man and they date. I'm not saying this is the case across the board with every single white guy, but I've noticed a pattern. It's like some of them can get insecure when they see you with white girls, right? So my own interpretation, I may not be right. I may be right. I may be wrong. I don't know. But this is what I feel. I believe this fight all started over a female. Because most of fights start over a woman. I'll be honest. Because this is why I find it very weird that they said, this is alleged, I don't know if this is true, that text message was deleted from Nolan Wells' phone. So it may have been something over a female, right? Because they said that Nolan Wells said he didn't want to go back with them on the boat because he wanted to spend time with a white girl. I may be wrong or something like. I may be wrong, but I believe they said something along like he wanted to stay on the island because he was trying to holler at this girl or whatever. But I believe what really happened was that they felt jealous or whatever, some form of jealousy towards Nolan Wells because he was the guy that was getting all the girls, and you know how people could get very jealous when they see that you're the guy that's getting all the attention from the girls, and you're like you're the best, like the athletic guy. And women are attracted to you, and you know what I'm saying? So one of them trying to punk him and say, try to take his phone, and Nolan Wells fight. He a square, you can tell. It was about a girl. You can't really say he's a square, man. You don't really know that based on you can't say that based on like pictures or a few videos. You don't know him personally to say he's a square. Like, you don't know him personally to form that conclusion. I'm not saying that he's like a macking guy or he was someone who was a player, but he may be that type of guy that white girls were attracted to more than his other friends. And you know, people can get very insecure. It doesn't matter what race, but I think especially white men, they could get very insecure. Especially as a black guy, you're like the guy that white girls are like, you know, giving attention to out of the group. So they could get very insecure. So I think what happened, this is my own opinion, right? I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. But I think what happened is that some type of physical altercation took place at on the island, where Nolan Wells was fighting for his phone because he wanted his phone back, and then you know the fight took place, and then Nolan Wells was getting the upper hand over one of the so-called white friend of his, and then the other group of white friends, they jumped Nolan Wells, and one of them hit him in the back of the head. That's why they said in the autopsy there was the discoloration at the back of the head and stuff like that. And if the body was decomposed, that's a very alarming that they found that also in the autopsy. Girls that like him will have confessions. She will give hints. Girls talk. I do agree with that, Gary. I do believe somebody's gonna come forward and confess. One of the females that was cool with him. One of the female white friends of his that was familiar with him and you know have known him for years, because they said apparently like he's been to this island before, so I'm sure he had his fun with with one of these female friends that he had known and he may have been familiar with. So I believe one of the females is gonna come forward and they're gonna tell the truth of what really happened, because you cannot tell me that there are other people on the islands and there's boats surrounding this island and no one like seen anything and noticed what took place. So I believe somebody saw something, and the price. I think the prize money has gone up to $125,000 for anyone to come forward with any information that will lead to an arrest. So I believe, you know, once the money is on the line, people are gonna start talking. So I believe somebody's gonna come forward and spill the beans, and they're gonna tell the truth of what really happened to Nolan Wells. Let's see. White men hate when black men take their white women. Yeah, brother. I say that's true to a certain extent, man. I do believe that happens a lot, you know. I noticed there's some level of insecurity that happened with some of these white men, because I had experience. I'm not doing that anymore because I'm a born again. Like, I've been a Christian, but God has changed my life, and I'm not living that life anymore. I'm not, you know, in that world anymore. But when I was in that world, I was dating a white woman, and she told me that white guys are very insecure because they ask about black men who, like, this one girl that I was dating, she told me that white men are insecure about black men because they always wonder how big we're down. You know, I don't want to say it, you know, but they're always like comparing us to them, and they're like, if they want to know if a white man has dated have dated a black man before, and they're always trying to compare. Oh, wait a second. I will get back to your message. Yeah, that's fake news. By the way, Brandon Jones, that is fake news. I agree. No, don't pay attention to this this thumbnail. This is just a video I was watching on YouTube. His organs was not missing when they found they recovered his body, his dead body. His organs was taken out during the initial autopsy because that's the standard procedures they do. So I don't want you guys to don't get miscarried or misinformed. This is a video I was watching on YouTube. His organs was not missing during when they recovered his body initially. This only happened when they was conducting their initial autopsy. They have to remove the organs. That's a standard protocol they do when they're conducting their investigation. So yeah, I agree with you that this is don't get carried away with this. This is just a video I was watching on YouTube, and I also want to address this because there's people online that are spreading misinformation, and they saying, when they conducted the autopsy, because they had to do, there's two separate autopsy I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Autopsy, autopsy that was done, right? The one was the initial one was the autopsy that was done by the state of Mississippi. That's the state itself, and there was an independent autopsy that was done during the initial autopsy that was conducted. The organs have to be removed in order for them to analyze everything in its totality. That's a standard procedure they do when they're conducting an autopsy. So the organs were removed, and they have to analyze everything in its totality to determine to have a more conclusive results of what could be the reason why he passed on, right, or why he died. So that's the reason why the organs were removed. But when the independent autopsy was conducted, the organs were replaced back in his body, but the only thing that was missing was his throat, because the throat is still being analyzed by the state of Mississippi. But the pathologist that represents the state of Mississippi is still conducting their own autopsy on the throat. So the independent autopsy is still waiting for the throat to be, be available for them to conduct their own independent autopsy, because they can't really get more information until they got all the available organs that they need to do their own independent autopsy. If you get what, so does that make sense? Make sense? Does that make sense? Yeah, it's really horrific. Yeah, man, it's they sold them to the highest Chinese bidder. What are you talking about, Finch Juice? They didn't sell anything to the highest bidder, because I don't want you guys to think this was something like organ harvesting or something like that. Or they harvest his organs and they sold it to the black market. That's not what happened in this situation. That does happen though in reality. A lot of the sometimes you hear about mysterious deaths or people going missing and they can't find where this person is. A lot of times they do a lot of sinister stuff where they take people's organs and they harvest it and they sell it to the black market. There's a lot of evil stuff. That's why I said you got to be spiritually aware, and you got to pray for the covering of Jesus over your life, because the devil is like a roaring lion seeking the souls he may devour. And we live in an evil world, and Satan is out here on the prowl, and he's very busy. But anyways, God has really changed my life, and he's opened up my eyes to see things on a spiritual level. So I believe this is also a spiritual side to it too, because it's like I'm hearing these recent stories of, young black men that are like in tip-top shape just end up mysteriously dying in these situations like this. And it's like a lot of stuff is being hidden and like being swept under the rug, and people don't want to come forward, and like there's a lot of suspicious activity surrounding these individual young black men dying in these in these waters, in these rivers, in these oceans. So anyways, hi, by the way, Rig RSG Music, hi, thank you for tuning in to my live stream. But to summarize what I was saying, going back to the original point I was making, there is no conclusive evidence to determine the cause of death of Nolan Wells. It's still an ongoing investigation, but I have my own inference and my own interpretation of what what I believe took place on that island, because I find it very suspicious. And you guys tell me if you agree with me or not, but don't you guys find it very suspicious that Nolan Wells would decide to be left behind on this island when it's basically nowhere for him to go, because this island's not that big. You pretty much could walk from the end, from the tip of the island to the other end of the island, right? And it's surrounded by waters, and the waters have strong currents. And on top of that, his phone is left on the boat. What kind of person in their right mind is gonna be okay with just being left behind by their friends and be like, okay, you guys could leave me behind, and by the way, you could take my phone as well. That doesn't even make any logical sense to me. And so there's a lot of questions that are, really deep in my mind. Like I'm still like not really confident that this truth is really being put out there. Like the media's trying to make it seem like it's just accidental drowning and stuff like that. I don't believe it was an accidental drowning. I believe some nefarious activity took place on that island. You know what I mean? Tangerines said nonsense. It is awful. Yeah, it is awful, brother. It's very terrible tragedy that happened to this young man, and the truth will be revealed, man. Gary said killed him, left him on the island. He was already dead. I believe so. I believe a physical altercation took place on the island, and Nolan Wells was having he was fighting. One of them had his phone. Somebody had his phone, and he was fighting for his phone. He wanted his phone back, and there was a tug of war, and Nolan Wells had the upper hand over one of them, and the other one jumped in, and they started ganging up on him, and one person delivered a fatal blow to the back of his head. That's why in the autopsy report they talk about a discoloration in the back of his head. I forgot the exact. Let me see if I can read it quote by quote, because that's very alarming to me. That means, in my opinion, he suffered from blunt force trauma to the back of his head. He died from that. Someone hit him in the back of the head, and that was the devastating blow that ended his life. Phones, no messages, car keys, and blunt force to the back or skull, and his throat was not with the corpse for the secondary autopsy. The hate is real, and the love is so fake. Yeah, man, it's really it's crazy, right? It's crazy, Polly Pocket. It's really crazy, man. A lot of things are not adding up right here. It's just there are so many questions that are running through my mind, and there's a lot of alarm bells that are like ringing. Like my spider senses are going off. And one thing I noticed about God is that God has given me the gift of discernment. I find it very suspicious. What kind of friend? Answer me, please answer this question. What kind of genuine friend is gonna leave their friend behind on the island? And let's say even if your friend like decides to be left alone, you're gonna if you genuinely care about this friend, you're gonna like try to report this person missing and get the authorities involved. And then on the top of that, it was reported that the father had to fight to get the phone back from his so-called friends, because they were holding the phone hostage, and then deleted messages was found on the phone, and then they just went cold turkey. They turned off their social media, and they lawyered up. All of a sudden, they lawyered up out of the blue. Like, there's no way a real friend is gonna just leave their friend behind and then just all of a sudden get representation, unless they're hiding something. In Russia, there's actual underrated areas where people take bodies from coffins and take their organs. Is that so? Wow. In hazmat suits? Wow, that's crazy. JVR, man, that is nuts, bro. That is crazy. He said, why they look like cousins, Cam Kaza? Did they look like cousins? Kind of, but they're not related, brother. They're not related. This second person, I don't know if it's the actual doctor or the pathologist. Not the doctor. Let me see. Let me look it up. Let me determine if this is the actual pathologist that conducted the autopsy on Nolan Wells. Because the first medical examiner that conducted the autopsy on Nolan Wells was named Dr. Roger. Yeah. So the forensic pathologist that did the independent autopsy on Nolan Wells was named Dr. Roger A. Mitchell, which is him, the guy on the right. So that is him. But they're not related, okay? So I don't want you to think that they're related. They're not related. Why take the organs after buried? Wouldn't organ be dead? No, Robert Mings, that's not how it worked. They preserve the organs, but when they conduct an autopsy, they have to remove the organs. That's the standard procedure they do, because they have to observe everything in detail. They can't determine conclusively what's the cause of the death unless they remove the organs and do a thorough investigation on everything. That's just something that's a standard thing. But they do preserve the organs. They keep it refrigerated and stuff like that to make sure the organs do not decompose and stuff like that. They claim it's alive, but they just scam. Russia runs the black market. Oh yeah, I can only imagine, David Main, that there's a lot of countries that are involved with the black market, man. Especially these, third world countries or countries that are not as financial. Even the first world countries. I mean, it's just an evil war we live in, man. That's why you gotta live for God, man, and you gotta come back to the Messiah, because the world we're living in is wicked and it's treacherous, man. The world we live in is demonic. Was the first pathologist in this case a credible source? Can you find her name, please? I could look that up for you, Polly Parkett. I could definitely look up. By the way, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, because I'm doing a thorough investigation on this, and I need support, and share this video to all platforms so the video can go out there in the algorithm. So the first let me see, the preliminary independent. Okay, so let's see who conducted the first autopsy. Let's look up this person. She took it off her license, for real? For real? That's crazy. All right, let's look this up. Who is? That's crazy, bro. This is very I also find it very suspicious that it seemed like they took a while to conduct the autopsy on Nolan Wells, because they said that the body was decomposed where they couldn't determine if there was any like cuts or laceration on the body, so they can't conclusively determine if there was foul play involved. So it seemed like the body was left like I can't. I may be wrong, but it seems like they didn't preserve the body fast enough as much as they should, because there's a shelf life that the body has to be in order for things to be preserved. Like, if you don't preserve the body long enough, then the body start decomposing to the point where you can't even recognize it. Autopsy. Yeah, that's true. Wild West says, well, when doctors let you die for organs, she for sure did. Yeah, some doctors are very this is why you can't put your faith and trust in man, and you got to put your faith and trust in man. I mean, in God. Sorry, let me say that again. This is why it's important not to put your faith and trust in man, but instead put your faith and trust in God, because there's a lot of evil doctors out here who are like opening people's body and harvesting people's organs, and sometimes they will claim that you have some issue when there's really nothing wrong with you, and then they do some procedure they're not supposed to do to harvest the organ. That's why I pray that the truth will come out eventually, because there's a lot of nefarious. To me, I think something nefarious happened, man. There's something nefarious that happened to this young man. I really believe so. I really believe something nefarious happened to this young man. So who was the first? Who's the first? Okay, so they didn't mention the person. Oh, they didn't mention the person's name. Oh, this is very suspicious too. I hate the doctors that do that. I agree. Well, let me go back to this verse by Beak, where it says, and say, praise to Allah who has not taken a son. Oh, you believe in? Are you a Muslim? Okay, you're a Muslim brother. I have love for my Muslim brothers. All love to you guys, but there's how I say this, the only way to the Father is through Jesus Christ. And I have love for you Muslim brothers, because I went to a Muslim country, and you guys are very loving people. But I had revelations from God, and Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and there's no other way to the Father except through him. But I'll leave it at that, because that's a whole different topic for another day. Let's not bring up religions. Let's talk about, the situation at hand. You said decomposed after less than 3 days. Nolan was found on the 6th of July. Okay, got you. So they actually didn't release the name of the medical examiner that conducted the initial autopsy on Nolan Wells. So I believe that's very suspicious, because that should be information that should be easily accessible to the public. I'm like, for them to just conceal that information, it makes no sense to me, because we need to know. I do know they say that it's a female. It's a female that conducted the autopsy on this individual, and she's been accused of like determining like past history of like young black men that have mysteriously end up like dying from like, like the guy that ended up being hung. They found him hung on a tree and stuff like that. Like, she claimed all of these deaths were accidental. So they're trying to protect her from public scrutiny, but she needs to be held under a microscope, because I'm like, we need to know who is conducting this autopsy. We need to understand what is this person, background, so we can understand, okay, there's a history of this person. You could find her name? Okay, I'll appreciate it if you do find her name. You going off topic? Yeah, Beak, let's focus on the topic at hand. Because I'm a Christian, but like I'm addressing this right now because this is a situation that needs to be addressed. But let's not go into the deep end right here. I can make a separate video to address those points that you have made. And I love ministering to people, because I really care about saving people's souls from hell. But let's focus on the topic at hand, all right? Let's not go into the deep end with religion and stuff like that, even though it's a relationship with God, not a religion for me. But anyways, I digress. It's very weird that they don't want to release her name to the public. But, the second independent autopsy that was conducted, that was a board-certified forensic pathologist named Dr. This is the guy that conducted the second autopsy on Nolan Wells. His name is Dr. Roger Mitchell Jr. And, so he's basically waiting for the first pathology that did the initial investigation to hand him over the throat, because he needs the throat. And also, this YouTuber used the word tampering. Let me play this video back. And this is the term that really upset me, because he's spreading misinformation to his viewers, because a medical exam. I'm getting switched up with the names. Forgive me if I use the wrong terminology or switch up the phrases or stuff like that. But the medical examiner that conducted the initial autopsy, this YouTuber claimed that this person tampered with the body, and that is very incorrect. I'll prove it to you. This is what he said.
Person who performed the autopsy. There was already an autopsy done. So the body was already tampered with by the first
You hear that?
person who performed the autopsy.
Do you hear that?
There was already an autopsy done.
You hear that?
So the body was already tampered with by the first person who performed the autopsy.
He said the body was already tampered with by the first person who conducted the autopsy. Tell me, does that even make any sense? How can a medical examiner tamper with the body? Last time I checked, their job is to conduct a thorough investigation by conducting forensic procedures where they observe the organs to determine if there's any injuries or any sources of death that they may determine based on certain evidence that they've gathered from the forensic procedure. So for him to use the word tamper with, that's incorrect. Medical examiner cannot legally or ethically tamper with the body. Now, I could say to a certain extent, if it's like ethically, like if somebody may have done something to the body before it got examined by the medical examiner, they could have possibly tampered with the body. That is a possibility, but the medical examiner is like looking at the body in its totality, and that is not considered tampering with the body, which is crazy. Isn't harvesting organs illegal? Yes, harvesting organs is illegal, especially when it's done in the black market. I mean, a lot of illegal stuff happen under the black market. So they harvest organs. They do a lot of stuff like that. And you've heard a lot of stories of like missing children. I've heard that there was like over 300,000 missing children, like in America alone, and it's like people can't determine where these children are. Like, there's a lot of evil stuff that goes on in this country, and I'm just really like lost for words. And this is why you gotta stay prayed up, because these times we're living in is very perilous times. You said Stacy Turner, Chief Medical Examiner, Mississippi. Oh, thank you, Polly Pocket. Sorry for mispronouncing your name. Thank you, Polly Pocket, for finding the name of this medical examiner that represent the state of Mississippi. Her name is Stacy Turner, and she's a Chief Medical Examiner of Mississippi. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it for conducting your own research and finding this individual. I've heard that she has been known to basically misrepresent a lot of black victims that were found to die in very suspicious ways, such as like hanging or drowning and stuff like that. She all determined they were accidental or self-inflicted, which is like very suspicious to me, because it seems like when it comes onto black bodies, we don't get the due justice that we deserve, and there's not enough urgency to find out the truth or really find out the real reason what was the cause of this said individual's death. So the fact that they don't want to disclose her name to the public is very alarming to me. This should be information that's publicly available for people to look at. Just like when you conduct an autopsy and it's available to the public, you're able to read it in its entirety, and you could sit down and read it yourself, right? It's something that's in the public. But the fact that they didn't disclose her name to the public, and you gotta like do your own research to like figure out who she was, it means that they're trying to protect her, man. They're trying to protect her, and I hope that nothing happens where, even though legally and ethically speaking, they're not supposed to tamper with the body, but you can't trust people. I'll be honest, people are evil, and even when they're supposed to do their due diligence in their expertise, their profession, be some nefarious means towards whatever they do. They have an ulterior motives, or whatever the case is. So I hope that's not the case. I hope Nolan Wells, but I do find it suspicious that they weren't able to conclusively determine if the cause of death was because of foul play, or it's like they don't know, they're not certain that it's suspicious. But the thing is that his body was kind of decomposed. So I'm wondering, when they found the body, they tampered with it before the autopsy. The medical examiner was able to conduct an autopsy on the body, because it seemed like the body was already tampered before then. You get what I'm saying? It seems like the body was tampered with, or something happened to the body where it's like it reached a form of decomposition, where it's like you couldn't conduct a thorough medical analysis of the whole body because it was hard to determine if there was like foul play involved. But one of the things that really stood out to me was the fact that the independent autopsy that was done by this pathologist named Dr. Roger A. Mitchell, he determined that there was like a, I want to say the right terms. What did he determine again? He determined there was like a discoloration in the back of the head. What did he say word for word? Yeah, there was like the level of decomposition. But here's another thing too, right? They said the level of decomposition can obscure the presence or absence of bruising on the skin surface, especially during a second autopsy examination. So even the independent, the medical examiner that's conducting and then his own independent autopsy on the body, he can conclusively determine if there's any bruising on the skin because the body has reached a certain level of decomposition. And on top of that, the throat is missing, so he can't even go do a full autopsy on the body because you have to wait for the throat to be available to conduct that. So the only thing he was able to determine was like he found a red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, which is very alarming to me, you know. But then it's like it's not clear. They don't know what was the cause of that or what led up to his death. But I believe the truth is gonna come out because the light, what's in the dark, must come to the light, man. And I think people are gonna start coming because there's too many people around for someone not to notice something that was wrong. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is basically the video I wanted to address. And just to clarify again, there is no organ missing from the body. I don't want you guys to, think that I'm saying that, oh, there was organs missing during initial stages of the autopsy. No, the initial stages of the autopsy that was conducted on the body, they have to remove the organs in order to conduct their research on the body. So that's just a standard protocol they have to do. So just want to address that firsthand. And like I'll say again, justice for Nolan Wells. Justice for this young man. He was very young when I had a lot of future, he had a promising future. He was a part of the football team, and he had a lot of life to live, and he had so much to live for. So I hope the truth will come out and that the family will get justice for their son, the mom, the father. I hope the family will get justice for their son. And yes, that's pretty much it. Do you guys have any final thoughts? I actually want to start bringing people on my panel. I'm trying to get the StreamYard up and running, but it's hard to get it up and running on my, I could have it run on my separate email account, but for some reason when I try to incorporate it into my YouTube account, it's not allowing me to incorporate it into my account. So I want to find a way to kind of incorporate it into my account and see what I can do, because I want to start bringing people up on the panel and getting your guys' thoughts and opinions about this situation. Polly Pocket said, not sure why the throat was removed for the first medical examiner but not included or replaced for a second autopsy. They were pressed for time to prepare for the funeral. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point you make, Polly Pocket, because I do find it kind of weird that the throat is not available for the second medical examiner to look in totality. And and like you mentioned, they have to prepare the body for the funeral. So I'm guessing they were kind of small, the time was limited, and they were trying to get everything. They was trying to get everything done as fast as possible. And that's one thing I don't like when it comes onto medical. When you come onto examining the body, it takes time to really get a thorough investigation into determining what was the cause of this person's death. And when there's a funeral involved, now it gets kind of complicated because you want the loved ones, the family, friends to say their last goodbye. So the medical examiner probably was rushing, and they had to do the best they can to do what they can in the short period of time they had left before they can give the body over to the family so they can say their last goodbye. So I think that the fact that the funeral took place also complicated things too as well. So that might be the reason why the throat is missing, because I believe if it was like timed the right, but I also believe there's a chance the body was tampered with before the medical examiner had access to it, because they said the body was decomposed to a certain extent. The fact that the body was decomposed means something happened with the body. Like they may have retrieved the body back on the island. Whatever happened, right? They went back to retrieve the body, and they tampered with it. This is just my guess, right? I might be right. I might be wrong. Like I said, I don't know the whole details yet. But this is why I think something strange about this whole situation happened. Because if he was drowned, right, they would have found water in his lungs or whatever the case may be. Or maybe they may determine that later on, but I don't believe that was the initial cause of his death. I believe he was strangled. Because that's why, honestly, this could also be the reason why this medical examiner is taking time to analyze the throat in more detail, because maybe they find something that is off about the throat. But I hope, there's integrity involved, because like I said, this same medical examiner has been accused of, just basically sweeping other like young black man death under the rug as like just accidental or self-inflicted, when we know there's a lot of things that happen in a lot of these, southern states, these sundown states, where you hear stories of a black. Recently, there was a young black woman that was found hung on the tree. Like they're lynching. They found lynched. A lot of these young black women and men are being found lynched in these sundown town places. So there's a lot of sinister stuff that's going on, right, in this country. And somebody in my chat earlier said, for people to bring up race is just like ridiculous. Like they like, oh, race has nothing to do with this, and like I never once addressed race in this live stream, not once. I was basically going off facts, and I was just reading the article, and I didn't mention race not once. But this one person that was in my live stream brought up race, and then I said, okay, for you to not even acknowledge that race might play a part in this is crazy, because like we do live in a classist, racist, sexist. I mean, we live in a society where people are judged based on their race. People are judged based on their class. People are judged based on their economic background. You said his head was slammed on a rock as he was grasping for air due to triangulation. That's my theory. Very interesting theory right there, Polly Parker. You got a very interesting theory right there. I think there's a possibility that may have happened, because they found discoloration in the back of his head. So I believe there is like some type of blunt force trauma to the back of the head. Maybe he was hit in the head with an object, or maybe they took his head and hit it in the back, like hit it against a rock or something, and that just basically knocked, like that was what caused him to die, because he bled out. Because it seems like he had internal bleeding to me, like hemorrhage in the brain or something like that. I wonder, did they look into the brain and determine if there was hemorrhage in the brain? Because I believe there's a chance that he may have bled internally, and that was what led to him dying. Because for them to find discoloration in the back of the head is ridiculous, man. Especially when they say that they can't really determine, like the second medical examiner that's conducting his own independent autopsy, he's saying that he can't really determine the extent of the injuries because of how decomposed the body is. the fact that he was able to see the discoloration in the back of the head makes me know that something really serious happened that stood out. You know what I mean? So I believe he was hit in the back of the head with some type of very hard object, or maybe he was hit like against a rock or something. Some type of physical altercation ensued between Nolan Wells and his so-called friend, and I think maybe he was. This is what I thought. This is what my interpretation of the event, and I may be, like I said, this is only my own guess. I think Nolan Wells was fighting for his phone, and one of his so-called friend, because I can't call them friends, because the way they're moving, no friend will move like that. So one of his so-called friend had his phone, and Nolan Wells was fighting over the phone, and Nolan Wells was like beating the so-called friend ass, like beating his ass, right? And then the other so-called friend jumped in, and they started beating on Nolan Wells, and then they hit him at the back of the head with something, and that's what caused him to die. So I do believe that's the reason why he passed on. Like I said, there's a lot of things that doesn't add up, because what kind of friend is gonna just leave their friend behind, and then all of a sudden hold on to the phone? And they said allegedly they deleted text messages on the phone. I don't know if that's true or not, but this is what I've heard. And also the fact that the father had to fight so hard to get access to the phone. So that means you kept the phone hostage. Like, what is so, like, that means you hiding something. Like, why do you want to hold the phone hostage? And why do you remove all your social media platforms? You move yourself from all social media platforms, and then you go cold turkey, and then you lawyered up right away? That's very suspicious, man. You could look at the writing on the wall and you could say, okay, something's not adding up. The red flags are going off, alarm bells. Like, it's just like something's just not adding up, bro. This is why I don't take, like I said, I have a mind of my own, man. I'm able to like look at things on a deeper level and form my own conclusion. You said I got to do some research about the island's terrain. Like, was it rocky and cliffs? I look at the island briefly. From what I've seen, there's no like rocks around. It was like sandy, but I might be wrong. They may be rocks surrounding, because like when you go further into the water, there be like some rocks or something like that. Or maybe they could take his head and hit it against the boat. It could be anything. It could be the rock. It could be the boat. They use the boat as an object, weapon. They could have used some type of hard object like a bat. It could be anything that they used to hit in the back of his head. And I'm praying about this, and I'm asking God if He could reveal this thing to me, because, like I said, the truth will come the truth will come out eventually. What's in the dark must come to light. So I don't believe that these people are going to continue going on with their daily lives and nothing's going to happen. Like, they're not going to be held accountable. No. The FBI is involved with this case, so when the FBI is involved with this case, there's something serious, something serious is going on. And this is why I'm very like something just in my spirit doesn't sit right with this case, man. Something in my spirit tells me something else helped happen on that island, because you tell me that he's gonna be okay. He want to be left alone, even if he's under the influence, because they said apparently all of them were under the influence, right? But even when you're not, like, they're all in your head because you're intoxicated. No one was gonna be. What kind of person in their right mind is gonna want to be left behind on the island on their own, but without no friends, and just like have no way to leave? They're stuck, and then on top of that, they don't have their phone with them. Like, people are used to carrying their phone with them. It's like a phone is your livelihood. Like when you don't have you ever had this feeling where you lost your phone? This has happened to me before. You ever had this feeling where, like, you mistakenly left your phone in like a Uber or a Lyft or like a taxi or something like that? You ever felt that feeling of like what it's like to not have to lose your phone? It's like you feel like your whole world has come falling apart. Like you feel so vulnerable, like almost like you're in desperation mode because like you pretty much use your phone for everything. So I don't think anybody will be okay with just leaving their phone on the boat and then you just have this person just leave you behind without your phone and then claim that, oh, he didn't want to come with us. And on top of that, he didn't want to bring his phone. He didn't want to bring the phone with him. Like, and on top, this is the thing that didn't even make sense. So if that's the case, right? Let's say, hypothetically speaking, let's play the devil's advocate. Let's say he didn't want to go back on the boat with his friend. Maybe, you know, there was an argument or whatever the case may be, and that he didn't wanted to retrieve his phone. The other thing I'm asking that is also leading up to the whole situation is why would you hold on to the phone and then allegedly you was caught deleting messages, and then the father had to like get the police involved in order for him to be able to retrieve the phone from you. If you was like a good friend, you would have made sure to get a hold of the father or the mother like immediately to let them know that their son has been stranded on the island. He doesn't want to come back on the boat. You would do everything in your power to make sure you go back to rescue him. And on top of that, you wouldn't be fighting over the phone. Like it just doesn't add up. He said, no one. This is definitely suspicious. Phone is like an appendix. Panic attack. Yeah. It's like you get a panic attack. Exactly, Polly Pocket. Polly Pocket. It's like when you lose your phone, you like panic attack sets in and you start losing your mind. Like your heart start racing. You start feeling like the whole world is coming into an end because you need your phone practically for everything. You can't really survive without your phone. So it's like, for me to see him be okay with just leaving his phone on the boat is just ridiculous. Like, no one is gonna leave their own lifeline on the boat, and then you just leave them. Like, first of all, even if he cannot like necessarily call someone on the phone, even if the signal may not be that good on the phone, you could use the phone you can have the flashlight on the phone that you can like notify somebody that you're on the island by yourself, or you could I don't know, like you could do something with the phone, try to send a message or something like that. You could use your data because you know if you have data on the phone, maybe you may get service. Who knows? But to say that to make it seem like he was okay with just leaving his phone on the boat, it's just that's something that I do not agree. I don't believe he was okay with leaving the phone on the boat. Claimed that they didn't know where the phone was initially. The so-called friend lied about the car keys and the phone. Yeah, the friend did lie about that. SOS alert. What's SOS? Does SOS stand for suspicious? Polly Pocket? Is that what it means? But yeah, man, the so-called friend. And you seen the so-called friend had this interview with Officer. I call him Officer Tap Dancing Raccoon Tatum. Have you seen him done an interview with Officer Tatum? Because he's trying to like make it seem like he had nothing to do with it, with Nolan Wells' death, and he's trying to like distance himself from everything, and he's trying to play like this character of like being this good guy. Oh man, I was trying to convince him to come back on the boat, but he refused to come back on the boat and all this stuff. And then you got the car keys and the phone and deleted text messages. Like, a lot of stuff is just not adding up, bro. A lot of stuff is just not adding up. So there's a lot of questions that needs to be answered, and I'm surprised they haven't filed charges on these people yet. That's what I'm wondering. Why is it taking so long for the district attorney to file charges against these people so we can get to the bottom of this? And then when the FBI gets involved, to me, sometimes it complicates the situation because they kind of take a while to figure things out, and then there may be a conflict of interest. You do need difference of opinion, but I also believe when it becomes political, that's when you lose the essence of what you're really trying to achieve. Because they try to politicize this whole thing, man. I do believe race played a role in this, but I don't believe it's the whole thing. I believe this is a story of like a young black teenager that was like very popular, like girls liked him, and he's athletic, and some jealousy was involved, and I believe some fight started over a woman, over a female, and they wanted his phone, but Nolan Wells was like, yo, give me back my phone, and the fights broke out over the phone, and one thing led to the next. Like I said, something else happened, man, on that island. You said on the iPhone he could have called SOS if he had his phone. The Coast Guard will come in a helicopter. Okay, got you, Polly Pocket. What does SOS stands for? I don't know what the SOS stands for, but you could actually, if that's the case, that means he could have gotten help if he was left stranded on the island and he had his phone. He could have called somebody for help, right? He could have called somebody for help. What do you mean, Rainy? What are you talking about, Jordan? How much they paying you to push this? What? Push what? What are you talking about, brother? Polly Pocket, you talking to Rainy? I know you're talking to Rainy, Jordan. Yeah. I won't in, bro. What? I won't in, bro. What? Yo, do you even know to write English properly? I'm down. Down for what? These trolls come out of nowhere, man. They come out of the woodworks, man. They come out of woodworks. Polly Pocket, you talking to Rainy, Jordan, right? Stop trolling, man. All right, got it. Yeah, I understand. This dude is just trolling. We gotta go. He said I'm trying to push propaganda, and I don't know what he's saying, but these trolls coming out the woodworks, man. What I do is I speak truth to power, and I ask questions. It's important to ask questions, isn't it? And this is why I'm glad that I don't follow the mainstream news media, because the mainstream news media like to push certain narrative, and they like to paint a certain picture and form their own narrative of what happened. Whereas like they want you to be indoctrinated to think a particular ways, and they want to rule this off as like something accidental. The manner of his death is accidental, and there's no evidence of foul play. There's no evidence of trauma, and the cause of death is drowning. That's what they want to rule it as. But what I'm trying to say to myself is this: if this is the case, that this death is possibly ruled as accidental, why do we see a lot of things that doesn't add up? Why is there discoloration in the back of his head? There's clear that tells me that there is some type of physical altercation that took place on that island, because you can't just have no discoloration on the back of your head. And some people say maybe he was hit in the back, like he hit the boat or something like that. Man, get out of here, man. I don't believe that, bro. It's like they want to find all these different excuses. I'm not saying excuses. Let me rephrase that. It's like they try to come up with all these different scenarios to downplay the case surrounding Nolan Wells' death, to make it seem like, it's not, there's not nefarious activity that was involved, and that his so-called white friends were responsible or played a role in his death. Because the fact that they did certain things that really was alarming, such as getting a lawyer as soon as the situation, the news came out. They already had lawyers. They had lawyers. They suspended all their social media accounts. If you got nothing to hide, why you need to do that? You said, why this nobody hasn't come forward? I'm sure this comment is funny. You said, I'm sure this comment. You said, why this nobody hasn't come forward? I hope he ain't died behind a snowflake. I do hope that's not the case, Polly Pocket. I do hope he doesn't. I hope he has this. This is not over a female, but I also believe there's a possibility that this fight all started over a woman. A lot of times, guys be fighting over females, bro. This is no way to put it. Like, guys' egos get involved, and when people egos are fragile, and they feel like you're trying to like up the ante on them, they get very emotional. And I think maybe the case may have happened where Nolan Wells may have been saying it could have been an argument. It could have started like a verbal altercation between Nolan Wells and this so-called white friend, right? Where Nolan was like, man, I got all the bit itches, right? I got all the females. You don't got no woman. Like, you're a loser. You're lame. And then and also fights happen about oh, you don't got no woman. Over the phone, the friends like, I could prove that you don't got no woman and all this stuff. Like I said, it could have been anything. Like, I don't want to jump to conclusions because I don't know the whole story, but it could have started over a female, and then Nolan Wells would be like, "Yeah, I got all the women. You don't got no woman." And then, shit, they're fighting over the guy took his phone, and they grabbed the phone from him, and Nolan Wells like trying to fight him over his phone. Because I don't believe Nolan Wells was okay with leaving his phone on the boat, bro. What's the name of it? What do you mean, Somos LLDM? What do you mean, what's the name of it? What's the name of what? You talking about the video? What's the name of the video? If you're asking that question, it's in the title. And also I'm talking about the situation surrounding the death of Nolan Wells. And don't pay attention to this thing here, organs missing from the body, because there's a lot of people online that's spreading misinformation. They saying, oh, Nolan Wells' body was found to have it was an autopsy that was done, and there was no organs in his body. The organs were missing when they found his body, and they're spreading misinformation because during the initial autopsy, the medical examiner removed his organs in order to conduct their own investigation to determine what was the cause of his death. That's a standard procedure they do. They have to remove his organs. So there's a lot of, I don't know why people do this. They will listen. This is one thing I can't stand about people in general. Is like they will listen to something, right? And they hear the information, and it's okay. Somos, it's all right. No, see, you're different because you apologize and you wasn't aware of what's going on. So you're different than the other trolls that coming in and trying to disrupt the show. So you're okay. You got nothing to worry about. But the thing I have the issue with is people who spread misinformation. They will listen to the live video about the autopsy, right? Crump, even though he's not well versed in explaining these things because this is not his level of expertise, this is why I believe it's important for people to stay in their own lane. There should have been a medical examiner or a doctor or someone who's an expert in this field that should have read over the autopsy and describe the situation or the medical terminology surrounding this whole situation, like the whole autopsy report. There should have been somebody who's an expert in this field, because Crump, he's doing a phenomenal job. He's doing a phenomenal job, but he's an attorney, right? And his fields of expertise is dealing with civil cases, going to trial and stuff like that, holding the parties responsible, accountable for whatever they do wrong. That is his level of expertise, but he shouldn't have been the one that should have read over or like reviewed the autopsy report, man. It shouldn't have been him, man. He should have stayed in his own lane. Like I said, he did the best he could, but he was having a hard time pronouncing the medical terminologies. Like, even this is my bread and butter. I work in this industry. I work as a medical technologist for well over 4 years. I've done DNA extractions on various specimens like blood, saliva, samples for pregnant women. Like, when it comes on to doing DNA, like analyzing a sample and trying to conduct any type of research, it takes time to get through the process of getting the results that you want. It's not something you can just figure out right away. And then even after you conduct your research, sometimes you got to go back and repeat, like a test, trial and error. You got to go back and do the investigation over again to get a conclusive evidence. Because sometimes, I was saying this earlier in my stream, you may look at a sample. For instance, when I used to do DNA extraction on blood samples, you could look at a sample. You could say a sample look like is hemorrhage, like I forgot the name, that they coagulation is forming, so the blood is not so, like, it's very thick and it's not so fluid, so that means the results may not be so conclusive. But there are times when the sample may look like it's not in good condition, and it only takes like about 2 extractions and the sample is good. So you can't judge a book by its cover. Sometimes you gotta do your you gotta conduct your proper investigation to like determine what is the cause of, or what's the results of what you try to analyze, if you get what I'm saying. So it takes time to figure things out. It takes time to figure things out, and also you have a better understanding of these terms. You see, when you haven't done things in a while, sometimes the memory is not so sharp, but experiences is the best teacher. And Crump hasn't done anything in this field, so he doesn't understand the terminology. He doesn't understand what it means. He can't break it down to you in layman's terms, so to a point where you could understand to a certain extent of what's going on. So like, yeah, it was very poorly organized, and yeah, he shouldn't have been the one to read over the autopsy report, obviously, right? So yeah, that's the only thing I have. But other than that, he's doing a phenomenal job, and I hope the family get justice and the truth will come out eventually. Yeah, man, justice prevail. Let's justice prevail for Nolan Wells, brother. That's all I gotta say, man. Justice for Nolan Wells. The truth is gonna come. Somebody gonna speak. Yeah, exactly. Polly Pocket. He does understands how to win lawsuits. I'll give it to them that, man. That's his cup of tea, right? Like, I give him that. You know what I mean? When it comes down to winning a lawsuit, that's his level of expertise. And like I said, it's important for people to stay in their lane, man. Like, do what you're good at. Just focus on what you're good at, and just make sure you continue to do what you're good at. Continue to fight for the right of people who are being misrepresented in the judicial system. But when it comes down to medical expertise, and I'm a person that have some form of expertise in the medical field. I'm not saying I'm an expert in everything, but I can hold my own with these different terms and stuff like that. It's like, you got to focus on what you're good at and just stay in your lane. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go into Attorney Crump. It's like me going into his field and using terms like mediation and going to trial and motion and filing like all these terms, right? It's like me using these terms, and I don't have any clue what it means, because I don't deal with that. That's not my level of expertise. So I just think it's important for people to just keep that in the back of their mind, like, just do you. Anyways, make sure you like Polly Pocket. Thank you for tuning into the live stream. This has been a very fun live stream, and I just want to address certain points. I want to address certain things because there's a lot of misinformation that's been put out there. You see this? There's people out here that are putting this lie online, saying Nolan Wells' organs are missing from his body. That's a lie. That's a lie. Nolan Wells' organs are not missing from his body. His organs were initially taken out of his body during the initial autopsy. That's a standard thing they do when they conduct an autopsy. But his organs were put back into his body when the body was shipped out for the independent autopsy. And this individual on the right, he's a person that conducted the individual autopsy on Nolan Wells. This individual on the right was able to observe his organs. The only thing that was missing was the throat, because the throat is still being examined by the first medical examiner. So don't get caught up in the lies, man. There's a lot of people spreading misinformation online, and I can't stand it because it's so disingenuous when it's like people know the truth, but they still choose to spread misinformation and fool their audience. And like I said, there's a YouTuber that's saying that the medical examiner that conducted the initial autopsies was tampering with the body, and that's legally and ethically not right. A medical examiner cannot tamper with the body. Their job is to, remove the organs and observe what's going on, determine if there's any underlying issue that may have transpired with the body. Maybe there's like a laceration or internal bleeding, things of that nature. So for people to use the wrong terminology and like spreading misinformation is just really, really upsetting to me, because like I don't like when people spread misinformation, because it's like it leads people astray, and then people start thinking certain things that are not really true, and they start thinking things, and it's like a lot of people don't know how to think for themselves, so they're so easily to be to be led astray. You know what I mean? But anyways, make sure you subscribe to this channel, turn the notification bell on, and share this video on all platforms as much as you possibly can. Share it on Instagram, share it on TikTok, share it on Facebook, share it on any platforms you can find, because I want my video like to be pushed out there in the algorithm. We need this video to go out there, man. The truth to be spread out there. And I'm an independent person. I'm not someone who can be easily swayed in a certain direction. I'm a critical thinker, and I know how to think for myself. I don't have to depend on the news or the predominant society to determine what I believe is right or wrong. So, all right, appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in to this live stream. Appreciate the contribution. I'm gonna go through the chat real quick. Thank you, Polly Pocket, for the participation. Thank you so much for the participation. Thank you the moderator for moderating the chat. Thank you, JRV Main. Thank you, JRV Main. Thank you. Even though B Cat just went off on a tangent, at least he didn't continue going on a tangent. So thank you. Thank you. 75K grind. I don't know what you mean by this is not true, doing anything for views. I'm not doing anything for views. I'm speaking the truth to power, man. So, whatever you say, man. That's on you. Thank you, Robert Maines. Thank you thank you, real Mr. Bo Handlers. Thank you, Cam Kozota. Yeah, man. Thank you, every guys. Thank you, Christine Micro. Thank you, Tangerines. Thank you, my brother in Christ. That's a guy. What is his name? My brother in Christ. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Shadow. Roscoe. Thank you, Roscoe. Thank you, my brother in Christ, d3ath. I got some future videos talking about my personal relationship with God, and I'm gonna speak about some more experience I've had with the relation that God has given me. So be on the lookout, d3ath, for future videos, because I got a lot of work to do, man. I gotta go out there and preach the message to as many people as I possibly can, because gotta save people's souls, man, from hell. But we gotta let people know that well, that's a whole different topic for another day. But yeah, like I'm gonna definitely continue with the same videos like that. But thank you for those kind words. It really uplift my spirit, man, and make me know that my videos are reaching people and it's making a difference in people's lives. Thank you, Mr. Peanut. Thank you, Salt. Thank you, Delano. Yeah, anyways, man. Thank you, Mr. Peanut, for that beautiful message where you say Jesus Christ loves you, man. I appreciate it, brother. Jesus Christ loves you too, man. All right, so that's pretty much it, brother. You said, when did this happen? This happened around, was it? When this happened? Polly Parker, are you still there in the chat? Because I don't want to give them the wrong information. Let me look this up. Let me see. Before I go, I could go on for probably 15 more minutes or so. This happened. Let me go back. Man, my nose is so stuffy. This happened July. Well, they said the independent autopsy was done on July 7th, but when did the body was? Yeah, the body was found on July 6th along the shoreline of Horns Island. So they found his body on July 6th on the island. You got it? Picasso? So? You got the answer that you're looking for? So they found Nolan Wells' body on July 6th. But I believe that his body was tampered with because they said his body, what the medical examiner stated that his body was at a certain level of decomposition. So that's why he wasn't able to determine if there were any like cuts or laceration to his skin. So in that essence, I believe his body was tampered with before the medical examiner was able to conduct their own independent autopsy report on him. So does that answer your question? Alrighty, that's about it, man. This live video's been going on for almost 3 hours now. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Man, it's really late. Alright, I'm gonna be on the lookout for future videos, man. This is only the beginning, but we're gonna address some other topics in the future. Alright, take care. God bless you all. Be safe out there and take care. Alright, bye.